You have core values in your business and your team isn't living them. Stay with me for the next few minutes. The reason why this is happening is almost always the same thing, and it has nothing to do with your team. Today, I'm going to walk you through one example, something that comes up in almost every business I've worked with. And by the end of this, you'll have a simple test, one that shows whether your own behavior is setting the standard you actually want. I've spent years as an operator working alongside founders at every stage of growth. And one pattern that frustrates me more than anything else, it's the founder who genuinely cares about building a strong culture, but quietly contradicts it every single week. Most business owners know this pattern by name. It's do as I say, not as I do. In a business, it's not just a leadership problem. When a founder breaks their own core values, the team adjusts, and the standard drops faster than most founders realize. The shift happens gradually, but by the time you notice, the gap between the values on the wall and the culture in the room is already significant. Let me show you the most common version of this, and the one founders almost never catch themselves doing. I'll use 3 values that come up in almost every business I've worked with. Do what you say, value every person, always be improving. Most businesses have something close to these under different names. Now think about how often these values are tested, not by a client crisis or big decisions, but by small things that happen every single day. A meeting time, an email you said you'd send, a conversation you'd committed to having. Here's the scenario. The business owner shows up late to a meeting. They walk in and say, sorry, I was just getting off another call. And everybody nods because what else are they going to do? But in that moment, the founder broke 2 of their own core values. They didn't do what they said they were going to do because the meeting was at 10 and they weren't in there at 10. And they didn't value every single person. The people in that room showed up on time and they were left waiting. The apology does not fix that. The apology signals that this is something the founder is allowed to do. Now, flip it. If one of your team members walked in 8 minutes late with the same excuse, you'd feel something even if you didn't say it out loud. And that's the point. The standard you'd apply to yourself has to match the standard you'd hold your team to. When it doesn't, your values stop being values. They become decoration. And there's something else worth naming. When you walk in late and say, sorry, I was busy, what actually lands is not an apology. What lands is, my time is more valuable than yours. That's the message underneath the excuse, even if you don't mean to say it that way. I worked with the founder of a professional services business, team of around 15 people. For months, his team kept missing internal deadlines. Nothing dramatically, just consistently a day or 2 late. He had an accountability system in place and he had raised it in team meetings, but nothing shifted. So we audited him first, not the team. And in the prior month, he had shown up late to several meetings and missed a handful of verbal commitments that he said he would follow through on. He hadn't noticed, but his team had noticed every single time. When he corrected his own behavior first, the team started to shift within weeks. And that's the mechanism. The founder sets the real standard for what's acceptable in the business, not through the values document, through their own daily behavior. When the founder is consistently on time and follows through on their commitments, the team builds to that standard. When the founder makes exceptions for themselves, the team registers that and adjusts. Your culture is shaped by the decisions you make when it would be easier to do something else. The written values can say anything. The actual culture reflects the founder. What would you do instead in this scenario? Finish every meeting 5 minutes early. Build it as a habit, not a good intention. That 5-minute gap gives you time to reset, walk to the next location, sit down properly, and start exactly when you said you would. That single habit is what do what you say looks like when no one is checking, and what value every person looks like before the meeting even starts, and what always be improving looks like as a daily system. That change compounds because culture travels downwards faster than any memo. The founder who builds that habit tends to find their team is doing the same. I've never worked with a founder whose team consistently held a higher standard than their founder themselves. And nobody builds a strong culture by pointing at a values document and then walking out the door. So here's the question to sit with before your next meeting. If your team used your last 2 weeks of behavior as a benchmark, would you be comfortable with the standard that they'd land on? That's the question worth answering. See you in the next one.